this is a subject that is close to all of our hearts. Do you ever worry who will look after you if you get ill when you're older? Do you worry your loved ones won't get the care that they need and also the care that they deserve if they get ill and are cared for by the NHS? Now, over the weekend, it was revealed a staggering 2 patients are dying from thirst or starvation every day in hospital. So do we trust the NHS to care for those that we love? And I'll ask you, Jane, first of all, because obviously last summer you had a really difficult time with your mum, didn't you?
Well, yeah, my mum had a fall and broke her hip and had to have an emergency hip replacement. So I was kind of thrust right into the, you know, no one wants to use the NHS just because you want to go through life without any injuries or whatever, but I was thrust right into the middle of it. From the paramedics to the hospital, to the doctors, to the staff, to the... Unbelievable, unbelievable emergency care, fantastic. But, you know, I also think to a certain extent, and where, for me with the NHS, where the problem came in was when they outsource. When they outsource services and stuff like that, which we'll talk about a bit more later.
After the emergency?
So after they've left the hospital, yeah, the follow-up care,
okay,
and to a certain extent the pre-care as well, if you talk about mental health issues, which is another big subject. But for me, it was absolutely incredible. But I just think there is an enormous amount of waste in the aftercare and the outsourcing, which could be put into the medical side far more efficiently. But I also think my mum's experience was helped by the fact that, you know, I am the noisy wheel that got oiled. And I was there every day, talking to the surgeon, finding the right doctor, finding the right person to answer the question.
Yeah.
There were an awful lot of people in the ward with her who didn't have that backup.
Yeah.
And that's when you see people start to fall between the cracks.
Yeah.
I remember when my sister had her baby and she was only going to be in for a day and then she had to be in long because he got jaundice. And on the second meal that she had this sausage and mash and the sausage was rotten. Properly rotten, and she's just had a baby. And so the family took in breakfast, lunch and dinner every day for the whole time that she was in there. But, you know, every day I was thinking, what about all the people here that can't do that?
Yeah.
And, I mean, there was an investigation last November and hospitals were found to be serving out-of-date food from kitchens full of flies.
Oh.
Meals were being prepared in mouldy kitchens, putting vulnerable patients at high risk of food poisoning. I mean, that's the other thing.
In hospital?
But never mind that. Never mind if they're what about the terrible nutritional value? Yeah. I mean, similar experience.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My sister is a nurse and she works on the paediatric ward. She goes into oncology wards where they've got jelly and crisps and, you know, and things that... sugar that feeds cancer and things like that. And you know, and you just think, what on earth is going on when we're giving our patients, any patients, the wrong nutritional food, something that could substantially help their treatment and make a huge difference in their recovery and even cure what disease they've got. We're not even getting to the root of that.
And I think what's so sad is we're talking about it now. I can remember 20-odd years ago talking to a friend of mine who was a dietitian in an NHS hospital, and she was sobbing with frustration over the fact that all she wants to do is heal people through food, and that's what she's trained to do, and she can't do it just because, for whatever reason, whether it's budgetary or management or whatever reasons. That was 20-odd years ago and nothing's changed.
Well, it's when I speak to Gemma, she tells me there's a huge fruit and veg stall literally outside the hospital, and she went into the ward and said, why don't we speak to them and get them to supply us with our fresh fruit and veg and make amazing meals? They'll do it for cheap, they're right there, it'll be great.
Yeah.
They have these contracts set up already. There is nothing that the nurses, the doctors, any of the staff can do about that. It all comes from the business side.
This is the problem with the NHS, and, you know, we get very, very emotional about the NHS in this country, and so successive governments, I think, just look at it and go, oh, I'm not touching that because everybody gets so emotional about it. But let's separate, so the medical side, the pastoral side, pour the money into there where it's needed, which is obviously the intent of the NHS, and then separate the business side. So I was reading today there's an NHS hospital up in Cambridgeshire which has put the running of its hospital into private hands, much to the disgust of the unions. But my God, has it made a difference? And this woman was saying, previously, I had to order a dishwasher for this hospital, £5,500, because you go through an agency, the agency put commission on, then the man that fits it has commission, blah, blah, blah. She said, I'm allowed to do it myself, as I would at home, saved thousands of pounds, which then went into medical care. So separate... Somebody with a business brain in charge of the business side of the NHS, and somebody with medical brain in charge of the pastoral side,
and the pastoral care,
and deal with it.
If you thought that got heated, wait until you watch these and click here to subscribe. You may as well. It's totally free.